is a place that the monarch and 5 great clans revive. It is also the group who manages the fruits of chaos. In any case, however, if one of the 12 great monarchs are truly involved in this, it means that they broke their solemn treaty. Chung Hyo tells them that, in return for the fruits, the monarchs and the 5 great clans made a treaty of sorts and promised to never get involved in chaos affairs. Hwang says that they must contact them now, but Kaiman notes that this is all a guess, and truly, he does not like to ask for help at all. Additionally, what would they do if they were all in it together? Chung Hyo asks Jaewon what they need to do now, as Manticore has fallen and 3 of the clans are down. If they proceed with his original plan, it will mean war, surely. Jaewon notes that they are enemies that they need to fight in the first place, so if they have to do so eventually, why not do them now? It seems that Jurhan told him Chung Hyo about Jaewon's plans, and he pondered on the topic greatly. He says that if he's trying to unite chaos, it will be an insurmountable task, as getting all of the clans to submit to him seems like a pipe dream. Additionally, the Resurrection Palace is far stronger than any of the 10 clans, combined. No matter how strong he is, or how strong he will become, he can't just do things alone. A glisten of light shines through the hole in the ceiling, and Jaewon notes that this is precisely why he is here, with him. Jaewon looks confidently at Chung Hyo, who is extremely shocked by his answer. Jaewon notes that, it is as he said earlier, he is inexperienced in many things, and has not lived a long enough life, but that doesn't really matter, since he is around. Chung Hyo blushes, and asks when he told him he would actually join the expedition too. Jaewon stares at him once again, and asks if he really doesn't want to, something which moves Chung Hyo. He laments feeling what he's feeling right now, especially from a 60-year-old child, no less. Haewon turns his attention to the group and tells them that, as they have heard previously, he's not simply trying to gather people for the Abyss expedition. First things first, he will be uniting the whole chaos. After that, he will be destroying the Resurrection Palace that stole the fruits they fought for over 900 years ago. Only then will they depart for the Abyss expedition, and what he needs most of all is true comrades who will go through this with him, all of it. If they do not feel that they can be up to the task, they should leave now, as he has no further need for them. Kaiman asks if he intends to do it, even if he has nobody to help, and Jaewon says that yes, he will do all of it by himself if he must. Kaiman then asks, why? Didn't he say himself that he couldn't be able to do it alone if he had to? Jaewon looks at him sternly, and notes that he made it all the way here only by himself, so being alone is something natural for him at this point. This shocked the 3 from the group, and they don't know how to answer to that. But suddenly, Kaiman bursts out laughing, as he finds this extremely fun. He swears allegiance to his cause. He will follow him anywhere, be it the Abyss expedition or the Resurrection Palace. He will be there. Yong also does the same, and swears the same to him. After this is done with, they ask Hwang about what he will do, and he notes that he hasn't decided fully just yet. This surprises Kaiman and disappoints Yong, who doesn't seem that impressed. Hwang screams at them, saying that his reaction is the normal one in this situation. How could they just join up with this guy without even knowing much about him? If he's honest, he just doesn't believe that he is actually capable of leading an expedition to the Abyss, as the enemies that he wants to presumably defeat are extremely strong, which is exactly why he hopes that he can prove himself capable of it. 6 out of the clan leader are now gone, so if he is acknowledged by the 3 other clan leader, he will acknowledge him too, and will also follow him anywhere. Jaewon agrees instantly, as he doesn't need to think about it for long, but he also has a condition for this. If he needs to be acknowledged by them, then naturally they should also be acknowledged by him, right? So, he proposes this. A tournament, he will host it, and their titles as clan leaders will be on the line. If they all make it to the quarterfinals of the tournament, then he acknowledges them fully, and only then he will be taking their tests. Hwang is rather enraged by this, but Kaiman notes that it does make sense, since he has no proof that they are the strongest in chaos, and he can't depend solely on their titles either. So when will this tournament of his be taking place? That's when a dark energy emanates from behind the door, and when it's opened, they see Yurin, who is very angry, as he has seen what Jaewon put up on the walls. He notes that it already started in a sense, as he has put flyers all around, announcing the tournament preliminaries. Later in the fortress, Yurin sighs deeply, and Jahir notes that he's sure their fortress master has a plan. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done that. Yurin doesn't know what this guy was thinking, as now the situation has become a lot worse. All of the relatively strong people in Chaos, and those who also want to see the fight, have swarmed the gates, and the outer fortress is already fully packed with people. Additionally, all of the inspection gates are having difficulty with confirming identities, so there's that. Carlton notes that he doesn't seem all too happy with Jaewon's choice, but Yurin says that it's not that, but this is a matter of principles here, something which should be kept. Carlton asks if they can't just make a majority vote in cases of emergency, which the fortress master has to agree with, no matter what. Yurin notes that they could, because among the 5 inner tower leaders, those that would agree would be the 3 newly appointed leaders, so they would have more voting power. These 3 were chosen as leaders because 4 of the 5 tower leaders were slain during the incident with the Forbidden Heaven Clean, and the remaining one became severely injured and is now absent. Thus, they appointed 3 new leaders. Claire, as the fiancé tower leader, Jahir, as the security tower leader, and Carlton, as the law tower leader, obviously. They could get their proposal approved with this much. However, he doesn't feel that Claire was a good choice, as what kind of financial know-how does a bar owner have? She doesn't realistically deserve to be in charge of the entire finance tower, he thinks. She looks at him dead in the eyes and notes that judging by his reaction, he disagrees with the choice of the new fortress master. But does he even know what kind of value will his choice create? Yurin asks what she means by that, and Claire notices that he has been looking down on her since she is a bar owner, but that's whatever at this point. She explains that if people gather, money will naturally also be there, and Gorgon is now filled to the brim, something which hasn't happened in years, because of this one tournament. She also asks if he knows where the tourney will be held, and he tells her that he hasn't found out just yet. She explains that it's at the northern outer fortress, where the street stall are. So, if he remembers, it's the street where everything was destroyed, because of the Forbidden Heaven clan. The residents, who lost their jobs, started repairing the streets, and are now working as tournament staff. Yurin didn't think about all of this, and only took the tournament into consideration, something which was foolish of him. She tells him that the amount of money they lost from the Forbidden Heaven clan incident was a gigantic 12.87 billion horen, so if the tournament is held for 2 days, she estimates that they will make a total of 13.28 billion horen, probably more, as she hasn't taken other things into account. Yurin is surprised by all of her knowledge, but Claire says that he shouldn't be, as she dealt with a lot of money in her previous life. It was her job, basically. She doesn't truly know what this fortress master wants to do, whether he wants to free them or just fight the entirety of Chaos. But she knows this, that he is going to change Chaos, no matter what. At the south of Chaos, in the Green Ocean, the Dryad Fortress stands, which was made by nature, purely out of the roots, and secretions from the plant-type guardian horned beast, also named Dryad, who would consume moisture from the Great Sea. The fortress master of this place, Aisha Lincroft, connects to the nature around her and feels that something is wrong, so she uses a top-level skill, Scout. With it, she sees far, far away and spots that there are countless dead going towards Gorgon, and one especially dangerous thing is the one in the front, which is one of the 3 great dead, the backwards walking Magritte. It's so powerful enough to detect that Aisha is looking at him, and it stares back with its deep eyes, which damages her, to the point where she bleeds from the mouth. Without much to do, she notes that at least she should inform the Gorgon Fortress Master, and sends a bird to do it. In the northern streets of Gorgon, the tournament is happening, and Shin Muguk, the Limitless clan leader, notes that this is progressing very fast, as they are down to the pre-quarterfinals, only in 3 days, at that. Chung Hyo comes next to him, and explains that this is so fast because everyone here is strong. They all raised hell, and killed tons of people during the preliminary rounds. They both greet each other after this, but that's when Chung Hyo notes that this guy grew in power, by quite a lot, so he compliments him for it. Muguk says that he also grew in power, but he was actually surprised to see him not in the competition, since he likes to fight so much. As for himself, he doesn't like dogfights like these and prefers actual matches. The fight beneath them continues, and Huang unleashes a mighty attack on his opponent. Afterwards, he thinks that he got him finally, but his opponent is actually high into the air and descends upon him with extreme force. When the dust clears, the stranger is the victor, and Huang loses the tournament right here. Moguk seems to know that technique the stranger is using, and Chung Hyo also thinks the same. It is the technique of the Steel Monarch, Hyo Yu's own Azure Cloud Mystic footwork. They wonder why his subordinate would be in this place, but it's natural for the monarchs to be up to something regarding this competition. Jahir announces that with this match, the pre-quarterfinals have ended, and they will now be moving on to the quarterfinals, the thing that everyone has been waiting for. The next competitor comes out of the waiting room, the Savant clan leader, Jaegal Myung. He looks at Chung Hyo and blinks as a greeting, something which annoys him greatly, but Moguk tells him to let it go, as he is only a 400-years-old kid after all. Jae-won is this man's opponent, and when they get face-to-face, Myung says that he has heard about his grand plans, but thinks that what he is trying to achieve is impossible. Moguk analyzes this new fortress master deeply, and wonders if he can win against Myung, since he is quite young. That's when he notices that his energy isn't that much different from Chung Hyo's, and asks if he's by chance his disciple. Chung Hyo smiles, and in that second, the fight ends with Myung being thrown into the wall. Chung Hyo notes that a monster like that one can't have a master, he is his own. Myung, who is surprisingly still conscious, thinks that, in the quarterfinals, he didn't have an opponent in the list, but later one, when he found out that his opponent was the Fortress Master, he thought that he struck gold, since he joined this awfully barbaric competition for the sake of warning the Fortress Master about what is going to come. This happened once in the past too. There were others who got people hopeful, and had expectations about getting their lives back, even though they were lost. However, a hope that can't come true brings about something much worse, utter despair. This is why he needs to crush that hope in advance, so that people are accept from this despair, just like he has done for the last 400 years. So he can't, or rather mustn't, admit defeat. If he does so, the last 300 years of his existence would have been for nothing. He notes that he said that this tournament will be held within one-on-one fight, but he didn't say what kind of one-on-one fight. Taewon remembers that indeed he didn't specify, but what does that have to do with anything? Myung says that he would like to have another type of fight with him, a battle of wits. Wouldn't it be fair if he were to fight on his own terms? The public doesn't like this, and they all call him a coward, someone who can't admit defeat. Chung Hyo notes that he already knew this guy would be doing something like this, and Moguk says that if it's a battle of wits they will be fighting, it will be hard to know who will win. Chung Hyo tells him that he will probably suggest that they play that awful game that the military advisors like to play all the time. Jae-hwan asks what kind of battle of wits is he talking about, and Myung takes this as him accepting the challenge. The area slowly shifts around them, and now, the ground is an entire field. The system welcomes him to the military strategy formation world, and asks him if he would like to read the manual, as he seems to be a beginner. Myung explains that the formation world is just a fancy title for this type of game. It is said that it was made by one of the 13 masters, a mayor, by the name of Maris. He used a certain game which had the title of Frontier as inspiration for this game, and the strategists of the Almighty Land enjoy playing it quite a bit. Also, he is the best at it in Chaos, which he doesn't tell Jae-won, naturally. He also adds that he will give him some time, since he has never played this type of thing before. But Jae-won refuses, as it's simpler than he thought, and he thinks he got it. In actuality, he knows the game that the mayor used as inspiration. A strategy game, where its main scenario would be a war between 3 races, and they would have to gather resources and train troops all in real time so that they can destroy the enemy buildings, which is the victory condition. He already knows of a game that is exactly like this. That Frontier game that was the inspiration is most definitely that game he knows from Earth. The one that everyone played. He probably has more than 10,000 matches in it, but just who are these mayors to know about something like this? Myung asks if it's okay to use the Lost Garden terrain, and Jae-won accepts. With that, they both choose their races, with Jae-won picking humans, and Myung picking undead. He thinks that the humans are quite literally the weakest out of all the races, so even though this child is arrogant, he is still just a novice at this game. The undead race he chose will get stronger as the game progresses, and it also has better units in the early to mid-game too. After he trains a few workers, he will build, establish a foundation, and win by amassing tons of troops. Before he can even think of doing that, however, Haewon goes on the attack with his villagers and easily takes out some undeads. This makes him mad, and he asks Jaewon what he's doing. Why is he attacking with his farmers? That's when notices he also made 3 watchtowers near his base, which provides his units with a clear advantage, and also with protection, since the watchtower is a defense building. But he can't just take out the watchtowers, as the farmers, who have the strongest stamina out of all the starter units, will interfere, so he basically at a standpoint now. He is helpless because he has to stop him. He can't since he didn't have the time to gather resources or build anything for that matter. Jaewon thinks that this is a rather common strategy in Korea, as it has a lot of destructive power, and it's very efficient. It was also a strategy that people would criticize, even more so if a contestant used it in a tournament. The people watching cheer for Jaewon, while Myung's whole scope of the game disappears. Now enraged, he asks how he could do something like this. Is it not common etiquette to not attack each other for the first 10 minutes of the game? Jaewon wonders what he's talking about, and Myung explains that normally, people would use the first 10 minutes to build buildings, gather resources, and things of the nature. Jaewon notes that if it's not a direct rule for the game, then it doesn't matter what he does, right? Myung falls to his knees in front of him and bites his lower lip roughly. He thinks, just who the hell is this man? He defies common sense and logic in every way, and also plays outside of the predetermined rules set in place. Because of this combined, there is nothing that he can do to reduce the amount of difference between their abilities. This man is just somebody that he cannot hope to beat, ever. But maybe it's for the better, as for the past 400 years, he has been waiting for this, for someone who could fulfill their hopes. With that, he admits defeat, and the first round of the quarterfinals comes to an end. While Jaewon rests from his battle, Mooguk and Chung Hyo descend from the public seats, and Chung Hyo asks him where he learned to play that strategic formation world, as he thought the only thing he truly cared about was practicing his thrusting abilities. However, since the spiral slash technique he used in the fight is partly inspired by his own slash, it is kind of inaccurate to say that he is really only interested in thrusting. Jaewon plays back what happened, and wonders what spiral slash he is talking about, as when they discovered the technique, Chung Hyo desperately wanted it to be called spiral slash, as to him, that sounded the best, but Jaewon told him that he only uses thrusts. Chung Hyo kept insisting, and that's when Kaiman came up with a grand idea for the name. Both thrusts and slashes kill their enemies, of course, so they should name it Fatal Spiral. Jaewon notes that this is what they decided to call it in the end, and Chung Hyo is very surprised that he actually got to keep that name instead of his more cooler, better one. Jaewon takes a look at Mooguk and says that he looks very strong, so they should spar for a bit. Mooguk notes that his introductions are a little rough for someone so young, and Chung Hyo told him already that this guy doesn't respect his elders, but rather attacks them. Jaewon sighs and explains that all of the old men in here are not weak in the slightest. They are all very strong, comes with the age. There is no real need to be nice to all of these geezers. While Chung Hyo chews Jaewon up for his words, Mooguk looks at him and thinks that for the first time, in over 900 years, after the Abyss expedition was destroyed, this is his first time seeing Chung Hyo enjoy a conversation this much. While Mullark was the captain of the expedition 900 years ago and gave the whole chaos hope and dreams, in the end, even though they all tried desperately, all that remains of that once great leader is a symbol of despair and dust. He wonders how Jaewon would do against Mullark. Will he even be capable of replacing him? Based on the last fight in this tourney, he is extremely strong and might actually be or become better than Mullark, considering his very large potential. However, another key part to leading is personality. He does not feel any righteousness from him, and truly, he feels like the opposite of Mullark, who was gentle and very mature. Additionally, he has felt a strange bloodlust all of the time he has been next to him. Suddenly he feels a strange and ominous energy from behind, as the eye from the true world is looking at him intently. He tries to look back as swiftly as he can, but the energy disappears the moment he does so. He asks Chung Hyo telepathically if he is an awakened, who notes that indeed he is. It took him a while to notice. He is a completely awakened person, through and through. Jahir announces that the next quarterfinals match is about to begin soon, and Chung Hyo tells Jae-won, who starts climbing the stairs to the arena immediately. Chung Hyo asks what he is going to do, since it is not his turn yet. Muguk ponders him being a complete awakened, and Jae-won notes that all of this waiting around for the rounds and stuff is just wasting everyone's time. Muguk wonders if he has surpassed the third stage of awakening, and Jae-won stands proudly in the arena. Chung Hyo looks at him with a puzzled look, and wonders what this bastard intends to do this time. The contestants arrive, and Jae-won begins analyzing them. Among these people, excluding Kaiman and Yong, these three new faces look pretty strong from here, especially this one, the woman with the chain sickle. There is just something about her that even Question can't even hope to figure out. Just who is she? Jahir comes next to him and notes that it is not his turn yet. So what is he doing here? The reporters and other news outlets rush to see what the Fortress Master will say as he grabs Jahir's microphone. He tells everyone to listen very carefully, as he has seen enough of the participants' strength, and he knows where they all stand. Since it's getting very boring to constantly watch others fight from the sidelines, he was thinking of changing how this competition will go from now on. One of the contestants steps up and asks what he is doing. This is the priestess clan leader, Ja Gukryong. She asks who allowed him to do so as he pleases, and why is he only changing the format of this competition now. Jae-won tells her that he is canceling the one-on-one fight rule, and Guker asks if he's basically asking them to fight in groups. Jae-won says that it's basically like that, and she tells him that something like this will not do, as if they split the participants into teams. How will they decide who wins? Jae-won notes that she clearly misunderstood him and explains it to her. He is not saying that they should do something so complicated like splitting the teams. There is just one team. The 6 of them will become a team, and he will be alone. This announcement shocks everyone, and Jae-won properly announces, yes, he will be fighting all of them at once, and alone. He promises, to the first one that strikes him down, the position of Fortress Master. The crowd bursts into cheering, and the news outlets announce that this is a chance for their new Fortress Master to show just how strong he truly is. The woman with the sickle laughs, and notes that this is good. Finally, something interesting is about to happen. After Haewon announces what he needs, he throws the microphone back to Jahir, and thinks that now, what he needs the most right now, is the trust of the common people. The deeper the connection he has with them, the more trust he gains, and over time, they will all develop a depth in this. However, in a situation such as this one, where there is not much time, there is another way to gain trust. That way is to show overwhelming strength. One of the contestants, a woman with long hair, gets up and close to him, at the shock of everyone around there. She notes that he is quite likable, and it would be much of a waste to slay him now. With that, she leaves him, and notes that she will be giving up today. While she walks away, Jahir wonders why she did that. In terms of numbers, they all had a clear advantage. So why did she just decide to give up like this? She whispers enough for Jae-won to hear. It's troublesome to do, and soon, that will appear. So there is no need to do anything. Jae-won wonders what she means. But before he can ask, Yong also gives up, as he cannot hope to defeat the current Fortress Master with his abilities. Jae-won thinks that he is doing all of this in order to become his subordinate and save face. Kaiman clenches his fist and also gives up. He acknowledges that his current abilities wouldn't even be able to move the current Fortress Master. Jae-won thinks that Kaiman is doing this because of his sense of fairness, as he wouldn't like to go 4 against 1. What a useless fellow. However, this means that even if he wins against these 3, it wouldn't give him a satisfying result. Guker says that this is quite a pity, as it seems that this is not what he planned, or expected for that matter. Jae-won notes that this is not perfect, but still, he is okay with the 3 of them attacking all at once. Guker says that his arrogance truly is boundless, and also, it seems that all of the others left to help him save face. Using question, Jae-won can hear what they are talking about telepathically. The vice leader of the clan notes that this is their chance to teach this fool a lesson, as no matter how strong he is, he cannot hope to endure all of their attacks. Guker asks her to hold her anger back. Has she truly forgotten that they are not here to fight with the Fortress Master? Jae-won eagerly listens to their conversation and wonders what they are here to do, if not fight him. Guker asks the other person, Hai Young, what she will do, and she notes that she will be continuing to observe them. Gooker asks who is behind the Forbidden Heaven clan for the Steel Monarch to make his move in such a crude way, but Hae-young says that she cannot answer that. She just hopes that they can do a good enough job with that they asked. Gooker's face contorts after hearing this, but with nothing else to do, she asks what needs to be done. Hae-young explains that they need to personally know the Fortress Master, and Jae-won thinks that basically, the other person is using her as a pawn to see how useful he truly is. With her mission set, Gooker explains that she has no intention to fight him now, but that doesn't mean that she surrenders. Even if they have no intention to fight him, that doesn't mean they will raise their white flag. She is only saying that they are voluntarily joining the Abyss expedition, all three of them. The other people look at this with a serious and questioning expression, while Jae-won asks what kind of schemes they are really up to. Gooker assures him that this is no scheme. If this journey truly is to bring back life to the people of chaos, there is no need for schemes. The public starts to become restless, as there is no fighting going on, which is boring. Gooker notes that, since they got this far, he should also be honest, he had no intention of giving up the Fortress Master position to any of them in the first place, right? That would be only natural, because this competition wasn't to choose new Fortress Master in the first place, it was hosted to recruit people for the Abyss expedition. She can't lie, she was very impressed with his method too, because after the Abyss expedition failed 900 years ago, nobody would dare plan something this grand. However, because of this, she is proud to be standing in this arena with him, and she is sure that goes for the rest of the people here too. Now, she is speaking to everyone, as she knows they aren't here because they are interested about the position of Fortress Master. She removes her face cover, and her emerald eyes widen as she rises into the air, and countless butterflies appear. She notes that she would like to hear his true thoughts about all of this, and the crowd's eyes glisten purple as they are slowly being bewitched by her eyes. Gooker asks, is the reason that they are all here because of the fight that is going on, or for the future and life of chaos? She would like to believe that chaos has not forgotten about their dreams. The skill that she is using now is called the Righteous Eye, and it slowly bewitches the spectators to believe that they also need to know about it. Hae-won notices this, and wonders if he should just end things here with a single attack. But that's when an elderly man puts his hands up, as he agrees with the priestess clan leader. He did not come from all of the way north, just to see some fights. The people recognize this man as the Gentleman's Sword, who doesn't carry any affiliations. However, judging by their smiles, it seems that now, he has at least one allegiance. Jae-won's face turns sour, as this has become extremely annoying. Carlton walks around the fortress, checking to see if everything is alright. But that's when he notices some strange sounds from the office. When he opens the doors, he sees a messenger eagle, and walks towards it, wondering when it came, as the office has been empty for quite a while. The messenger eagle notices him, and relays the message it was given, something which shocks him to his very core. A group of dead, including a mega-dead, is approaching Gorgon, and fast, from the Druid Fortress Master. Carlton looks out of the window and see the dark energy coming towards them. It really is true. At the arena, Jae-won also notices how dark and cloudy the sky has become, but he is distracted by Gooker, who notes that they should not be having an internal conflict right now. They should all just work together, so they should end the competition now, while they can, because really, he has accomplished his true objective. There are already countless souls that are willing to risk neck and limb in order to join the Abyss expedition after all. She thinks that now, with full control over the situation, the last thing that needs to be done is this. She begins speaking to everyone, as there is still an important question that is sadly left unanswered. Just who will be the expedition's captain? Chung Hyo notes that this girl is playing some dangerous tricks on the people, and Muguk agrees. He analyzes her, and thinks that she's using the Righteous Eye skill with a very good illusionary technique. And now, she's retracting her skill. Just what is she planning to do? Gooker notes that the current Fortress Master should take up that role, as with his strength, that surpasses the 10 clans, and his intelligence, that surpasses the smartest chaos scientists, he will become a perfect leader, and a true history figure of chaos. The spectators think that the Priestess clan leader is amazing, as she is a person who seeks to raise others, rather than themselves. The gentleman's sword says that the expedition captain is not a position one can take with only good strength and intelligence. Gyuker asks what other qualities are needed for an expedition captain, and he explains that most importantly, it needs to be someone who is able to lead numerous numbers without trouble, and a suitable personality to boot. He truly believes that they all need to carefully look at the fortress master and determine for themselves if he is fit for the job, and she could do that for them quite easily. She asks how, and the gentleman's sword tells her to use the righteous audit, as it would solve their issue fast. Gyuker smiles, and the public agrees that she should use that, since then it will be easy to figure out the Gorgon fortress master. Jahir announces that the righteous audit will be used, and tells everyone to clear the stage, except the fortress master, of course. Gyuker notes that, since there is no helping it, and if this is what everyone truly wants, she will do it. She begins activating the technique, and asks Jaewon, will he go through this audit, and take up the position of the expedition captain, like he originally intended? Chung Hyo scoffs, and says that they were completely tricked by this woman to think she would use the righteous audit. Maguk notes that everyone around here knows about her little Q&A ability, as higher stage adapters would plead with her to use that thing on them, to fill up their enlightenment values, in order to progress to the next stage. Chung Hyo is worried now though, as if Jaewon just blows everyone up like he usually does. They can say goodbye to the expedition, as nobody would want to follow a lunatic that harms his own subordinates. But if they do nothing, his personality will show through the test, and unfortunately, his personality isn't good at all. Jaehwan accepts the conditions, much to Chung Hyo's surprise. Gyuker asks once again if he will go through the audit, and Jaehwan once again confirms that he will. She says that if this is the case, she will begin now. For a good few minutes they stand still, and the spectators wonder what they are doing, but that's when the whole place changes into a crashing water body that is taking out an entire ship, which Jaehwan is on. She explains that the first stage of the audit is the ocean region, as in reality, most of the ocean region consists of dangerous seas like this one. So, as you can probably see and feel by this point, things like a ship being fully wrecked happen often around these parts, if the ships are not good enough. Fortunately for everyone on board, a rescue ship has appeared out of nowhere. But there is a problem. There is still one more person who needs to get on board, but this ship can only carry 10 people, and it will sink if they carry any more. Suddenly a man appears behind Jaewon and calls him captain. He asks for his opinion. What will they do? He needs to make a decision quickly. Now, he is presented with two choices. 1. Let those who were fortunate enough to get on the boat first survive, and give up one person, or 2. Not leave any people behind, even if it means that there is a chance for the rescue ship to sink and kill everyone. Now what will he do? Jaewon looks at the choices he has, and wonders if this is really all there is to it, while Gyuker flies above him, and asks what he will do in this given situation. If he chooses to go with the first choice, people will certainly blame him for being a heartless monster. But if he chooses number 2, then they will start questioning his judgment. No matter what choice he makes right now, his right to become expedition captain or not will be put into question. That's when Jaewon announces his choice. He chooses to go with option 3, something which shocks Gyuker, who notes that there are only 2 choices, not 3. Jaewon explains that option 3 is that he will be able to save everyone, including the ship. He will not allow it to sink. Gyuker bites her lower lip, as she knows that he just found the third hidden choice. This hidden option appears only to those who always look for their own answer, and it goes like this. He will not give up anyone, save the one that has fallen, and make everyone take turns to go into the water and come back. Gyuker thinks that this is the only choice here that saves everyone, whilst not giving up a human life. However, this is bad for her, as she intended for him to look incompetent by just showing 2 equally hard choices, but her plan is backfiring right now. She says that he should tell everyone loudly what his third choice is, as everyone is dying because of this turbulent and violent sea, right? Jaewon notes that if this is the case, he will just have to split the sea open. This statement takes Gyuker back even more, and wonders if this guy just lost it because he was flustered or something. That's when Jaewon takes a step forward, and breathes in heavily while holding his mighty sword. Gyuker tells him to stop, as she doesn't know what he's trying to do, and Chung Hyo recognizes the pose he just did instantly. He screams at everyone to get away, and as fast as possible. With a sudden bright flash, Jae-won unleashes a mighty thrust, something which shocks everyone, including the system, who can only see this as an error. And so, before Jae-won, the water disappears entirely. His crew comes around and they start celebrating them being alive, but Jae-won tells them to get off, as he doesn't like being touched. However, with the last of their existence, they offer their most warm thanks, and Jae-won sees something in them, a speck of humanity. With that, the righteous audit comes to an end, and rightfully so. Gyuker is very mad, as she also got hit by the attack somewhat. Jae-won looks at her a single time and notes that they should stop messing around now and get real. Gyuker's eyes widen, but that's when the entire Gorgon territory is locked up and alarms start to blare. Seeing this, Jae-won immediately runs toward the problem, and a voice tells everyone inside of the fortress that all of the events have been cancelled and the fortress gates will be locked indefinitely. Most citizens wonder what is going on, but those who saw the dark cloud know and tell the others that the dead are coming, so they should hide as fast as they can. From where the dead are coming, everyone has gathered, and Yong notices the pitch-black group that is advancing towards them. He feels quite unfortunate, as the Lighting God clan got destroyed in Manticore, and now he's facing an entire swarm of dead in Gorgon. Just what is this luck? Huang tells him that if he's scared, then he shouldn't join the expedition, as he won't be able to do anything. Yong says that if this is the case, he should also give up, as his legs are shaking like those of a scared chicken. Chung-hyo ponders the situation, and thinks that he never expected for a child that is not even 900 years old to be taking up the leading role in chaos. There are 6 of the 10 clans here: Limitless, Southern Sea, Savant, Priestess, Fire King, and the last remains of the Lightning God. He never expected to see something like this in his lifetime, but he can't lie. It does feel nice. He asks Muguk if this doesn't remind him of something they did a long time ago, and Muguk asks if he's talking about the Dead Palace situation. Chung-hyo nods, and Muguk notes that indeed, they saw something very similar to this back then. However, he does not know why that thing is here now. Chung-hyo thinks that the dead always call the dead. When a medium dead appears, small dead would arrive. When a large dead appears, medium dead gather. And since in Gorgon, the dead king has appeared, it will bring in something which has made every single fortress build high walls in the first place. The disaster that everyone fears, even in chaos, the mega dead, backwards walking Magritte. The undead assault begins in earnest, and the people who didn't manage to evacuate in time are butchered one by one, and in gruesome ways too. Gyuker watches in extreme horror as an entire horde of dead descend upon the fortress, and with the dead all around her, she thinks that this is the end. They are all done for. An elderly woman also tries to get away, but due to the fear in her body, accompanied by her old age, she trips, allowing herself to become feed for these ruthless beasts. Gyuker notices and wants to do something, but in that moment, the gentleman's sword appears. She thinks that it's a relief, and screams at him to go help that frail person. But instead of that, he lets her be killed in cold blood, while he continues to run away. He apologizes deeply as it's too hard for anybody to deal with that many dead. Gyuker has now lost all hope, as they are powerless in this situation. They can't do anything. For his crimes against the lowly, the gentleman's sword is rightfully punished, and immediately killed by the dead in a surprise attack. Gyuker can only watch, and a single tear flows down her face. Every single choice they made was useless. What use is there in getting the right answer, if the world is like this, where only dead is dominant, and suffering is the only promised thing? In this world without choice, something like hope does not and should not exist. The countless dead attack her, but suddenly one is slashed in two right in front of her face, by none other than Yong, who screams at her to get a damn grip, as they need all of the help they can get. That's when she notices that everyone around her are fighting for their lives. But why? They are just buying time for others to escape. Even if they fight, there is no possible way they can win against all of this. Are they all fearless because of how reckless they are? But that's not it. As he sees Yong trembling, they are all afraid, very afraid in fact. But if that's the case, just what gives them the hope to keep moving like this? Yong tells her that even if this looks to be a little rough, she should not be afraid, as there is somebody who is fighting a much bigger threat up there, and alone too. A single undead tries to interrupt Jaewon's fight, but he immediately grabs it by the neck and splits it in two with just his grip. The Mega-Dead raises a few stone slabs from the fortress and aims them at Jaewon, who notes that it's quite rude for it to just bite someone else's fortress. The Mega-Dead unleashes the stone onto Jaewon and then also continues attacking, not giving up the attack for even a second. It wants him dead. Jaewon thinks that this is quite the troublesome opponent. As he goes near it, it will use its ability to rip off objects. However, if he keeps his distance, it unleashes a large breath attack, something that is quite difficult to dodge given the space. It can also unleash it again almost instantly, something which ticks Jaewon off, so he chooses to stand in front of it this time and face it. Back on the ground, Chung-hyo continues to fight, but grips his sword tightly, as all of this reminds him of back then, when they failed the expedition, and he felt like humans could do nothing against the undead tide. In the face of such despair, realistically, there is nothing they can do. That's when a bright light shines in front of him, and he remembers what the old Tower Master said. The people of this place need hope, something that will overwhelm them, a hope that keeps pushing and stops at nothing. Jaewon manages to get close enough to the Mega-Dead and pierced it deeply. They both fall down as they exchange blows in the air, in a spectacle of good and evil. Everyone protects themselves from the blast as the sun shines through the broken fortress wall. But as the dust clears, it is shown that Jaewon has won this fight, and he smiles, as he thinks he should have done something like this much earlier. Chung-hyo is extremely surprised, and asks who the hell he is. But they don't have time to talk, as the undead are trying to attack him from every which way. Quite literally, he is surrounded. Jaewon just sits silently while they gather, and tells them to not get in his way. He unleashes a mighty attack, which clears some of them, and then unleashes another, a much larger one, which makes Chung-hyo think about what happened at the righteous audit, that Jaewon split the sea, and that's what he's doing right now too. Everyone around looks at the gigantic hole he made, and Muguk notes that he's quite reckless, and Chung-hyo agrees, but he has decided to protect that reckless person, no matter what. Muguk tells him that if this is the case, they will do it with him too, and so, with a new glimmer of hope, everyone gathers around and gets ready to fight. Muguk is the first to take down another enemy, and everyone follows after him, including Yong, who charges towards a large dead and defeats it in one strike. While he and Hwang fight, he notes that it's quite embarrassing to say something like this right now, but he feels the need to tell someone, no matter what. Hwang tells him to say it already, as he's hesitating for too long, but once Yong lands on his feet, he announces that he feels really cool right now. So is he? Hwang doesn't say a single word, and Yong begs him to say something already. On his side, Hwang is being charged at, and he notices that his body is slowing down heavily because of the fatigue, and at this rate, he will fall on his knees. Suddenly, just when a monster is about to attack him, someone throws a rock at the beast, a girl, who has chosen to fight despite the situation. The dead is rightfully annoyed by this, and so it charges the girl, who cannot hope to defend herself. But that's when she screams to do it now, and countless chains begin enveloping the dead. Naturally, this ability is that of Carlton, who is standing ready to fight, amongst the others who have chosen to fight alongside him. Hwang smiles, and says that fighting like this feels much, much better. Everyone is trying their best in this dire situation, and Jaewon smiles, as he slams his sword into the ground, and the whole fortress is enveloped by a blue glow. 10 days after this incident, people have started rebuilding, and the news that the three great dead and Magritte have been defeated. A reporter asks the fortress blacksmith, in his honest opinion, what does he think the biggest change in this fortress has been? The blacksmith thinks for a second, and notes that living here became much nicer, which makes the reporter asks how so. The blacksmith explains that 6 of the 10 clans in Chaos moved their headquarters in here, and there was a huge increase in supplies, especially horns from the horned beasts, and thanks to all of this, their economy also grew quite a lot. The reporter looks around and says that, by just looking at the situation, he didn't think that someone would say that it's actually nice to live here. However, he can't deny, the atmosphere around here is lively and cheery at times. The blacksmith notes that he is only saying this because he didn't watch the path of waves for himself. This is what the people call the incident, where a sea of dead was parted by Haewon's sword. It's almost like those who saw it fell into a trance, as everyone threw themselves into battle and fought the dead, even if countless people have lost their lives. The reporter wonders what these people saw, in order to make them say that they can live in chaos, even after all of this. It seems that after this, Gorgon's residents have started to truly live. Suddenly, a large explosion is heard, and the reporter asks what that is. The blacksmith tells him to not worry, as this happens pretty often, and it's nothing bad. The reporter thinks that the only ones that could cause such an explosion are high-stage adapters, and it's true that the 6 of the 10 clan heads are here. He asks if there's a war between the clans, and the blacksmith notes that it's something similar, and that's when 5 figures fall from the air, and the blacksmith smiles, as there's only 5 today. Jaewon sits in the training room and announces that every single one of them have a long way to go before they become strong. Hong hears about what happened and smashes his wine glass at the one who told him, demanding he explain once again what happened. The messenger obliges and announces that the mega dead which charged Gorgon, the one who went by the name of Magritte, has been killed. This angers Hong, as that mega dead was made from a stage 9 adapter in the almighty land, and it's a monster that could only be dealt with by a lieutenant or something higher. Just how did those Gorgon bastards manage to defeat one of the only 3 mega deads in chaos? He tells his man to look into the situation now, and thinks that this shouldn't have happened. He is sure that there was a mistake somewhere. 4 days after this, news of the North Branch of Forbidden Heaven clan, that's near Gorgon, spread about, more specifically, about its destruction. At the fortress, Jaehwan calls all of the other clan leaders weak, and asks what they have been doing all of the centuries they have been alive for. Yong wonders how they can ever hope to defeat such a monster. But that's when Jaehwan calls him, and tells him that he only has quick feet. He also tells Hwang that he has power, but he's very slow, and Jaegal that he thinks too much before he acts. He moves on to Gook, and tells her that she's nimble and has good instincts, but her stamina is laughable. The final one is Cayman, and he notes that he's the best among them. His basics are good, and doesn't have any weaknesses, but that goes both ways, as he has no specific strengths either. However, they all have one common problem, that they manage to obtain something without putting in effort at all. Chung Hyo notes that this is refreshing to hear, but Jaehwan also goes on to their case, as they have lived for 1,000 years each, but they are still weak. Chung Hyo doesn't like this, but he can't deny that he's right, as 900 years ago, all of the clan leaders were at least 7th stage adapters, and the leader of the Heavenly Dragon clan was 9th stage. Even with that, Mullark was much stronger than all of them. The expedition was a tough journey, even for such strong people. That's the kind of place the Abyss is. Jaehwan explains that during the subjugation of the Forbidden Heave clan's North Branch, half of them were either very injured or almost died, and they weren't even attacking their headquarters. They are already in this state after dealing with a single clan, so how can they hope to go on the expedition? Thus, as of today, all of them will be doing some special training for a single week. Yeagle thinks about how many muscles he will get, and he also asks if everyone here is an adapter. It's not easy to jump to the next stage, as he might think. Normal people would take at least 10 years before they become first stage adapters. Then, they would take 20 years to reach second stage, 40 years for third stage, and so on. Most humans would die before that. Jaehwan asks what he's trying to say, and Jaegal puts it simply, is he trying to turn them into awakened? This idea shocks everyone, and Jaegal notes that, from what he's heard, awakened do not accumulate power over time, and rather, reach the next stage through enlightenment. Haehwan says that indeed, that's what he's planning, if they are able to abandon their own world, that is. Jong asks what he means, and Chung Hyo tells them that there are 3 stages for those who wish to awaken. First, would be to destroy the world of adaptation, the one that they have lived in so far. Those who are able to, will be able to see the world for that it truly is. Jong wonders what he means, and Gooker notes that he's asking them to leave behind things like status, which benefits only the system. Jong notes that he is also an overcharged adapter. These people have a lot of affinity with skills and the interface system, while also possessing the ability to grow much faster. Thus, people think that they are blessed by the system. Hwang says that everyone around here is an overcharged adapter, but that's when Kaiman says that he's not. So, he will throw away his skills and world. If it means that he will become stronger, he will throw it all away, except the hatred he has towards the monarchs. They all wonder what he's talking about, and Gooker explains that they have to throw everything away, including everything they accumulated so far, but also something much greater. She asks if they have ever heard of the Great Disappearance, and Jaewon asks what it is. She explains that it started along with cracks appearing. 700 years ago, they suddenly appeared. In the almighty land, the terrorist group known as Cracks, that announced their fight against the cultivators, were all found with that proclamation shoved in their chest, and another proclamation, this one from the monarchs of the 4 areas. If one wants to become awakened, they need to come to the forgotten land and deny this world completely. There were thousands of adapters who gathered there that day, however. Nobody knows what happened. As per what everyone thinks, they have simply ceased to exist. Yong asks if there were any survivors, and Gyuker notes that there were some, and her comrades were among them, and they had become awakeners, even though they were only stage 1. Jaewon asks what happened to them, and with a sorrowful tone, she tells him that every single one of them took their own lives. The experience broke them down mentally, and they either went mad or lost their memories completely. They all had various things wrong with them, but one thing they shared, they did not know who they were before this. Jaewon looks at her and tells her to listen carefully, as he will make 2 things clear for her. First, he is not a part of the Cracks organization, but he understands her suspicion, given his awakened status. Secondly, like she talked about, awakening is dangerous, so he will accept volunteers for those who want to awaken. She asks what he will do with those that refuse, and Jaewon tells her that he will still help them become stronger. He just needs to help them achieve higher stages of adaptation. She asks if he didn't listen to Jaegal, as he explained it takes years and years to just get one stage. Jaewon says that it's not a problem and they should all follow him. They do so, and they arrive in the center of the fortress, where the blacksmith is building something. Jaewon asks if it can be activated now, and the blacksmith notes that it can. And so, the tower beams a bright light, and they all get one question. Will they accept the summon to the Tower of Nightmares? Carpe Diem? They all accept the invite, and are surprised when they get inside, as they did not believe that a human could actually create the Tower of Nightmares like this. Even if it doesn't have a second floor, it is still rather impressive. Jaegal says that he's actually touched by this. He never expected there would be a place like this that is not meant for domination, but rather to break it. Yong is equally as excited, and Jaewon explains that from here on out, their training will be done in here, as it will be much more proficient, since time in here flows 100 times slower than the outside. 1 day outside is 100 days here. This means that a mere week outside would be 700 days here. So they have approximately 2 entire years to train and become better. But the speed of the soul corruption is inversely proportional to the rate at which time is slowed down. Just to be safe, when one of their soul's corruptions goes past 80%, they will be kicked out instantly. Additionally, the horns of horned beasts would always be on standby outside, so there shouldn't be a need to worry about the corruption. Yong is surprised to find that Jaewon isn't just a cold-blooded and self-centered person, and promises once again to follow him for all of eternity if need be. With that explanation out of the way, Jaewon gets to separating those who want to awaken and those who do not. Those who want to will stand on his right side, and those who only want to increase their adapter level stand on the left. After they do that, training begins in earnest, and Yong seems to be attacked by Gyuker. But still, he mocks her, as she is far too slow to catch him. Suddenly, a flaming fireball comes in front of him, from Huang, who was trying to third-party him. He explains that speed isn't that important. What is important is destructive power, and he, the mighty Fire King, has that. Jaegal looks at their squabble and sighs, as they are all pathetic, and there's no way they will improve. The 3 immediately team up and look at him with glowing eyes, and get to chasing shortly after. Muguk looks at this, and thinks of what happened previously, when they were choosing. As everyone expected, Cayman is the only one who chose to go through the awakening, and he seemed pretty confident about it too. Gyuker also asked how he's going to raise their adapter levels, as it's not easy for high-stage adapters to become even more stronger than they are already. They need to get a certain level of enlightenment, or learn new top-level skills to increase their proficiency. Jaewon told her that this can be solved quite easily, which she was angry about, as a top-level skill book, which they would need, isn't easy to get. Is he also planning to steal from one of the great clans, like Zhang did? Jaewon said that they don't need a skill book. All they need is to learn from a teacher. But he will not be that teacher, because from now on, they themselves will become each other's teachers. Muguk thinks that this idea for them to learn from each other is very revolutionary, as since the clans are all stupidly prideful, this is something that they could have never done under normal circumstances. And seeing how hyped up these youngsters are to prove themselves and their skills, the plan that Jaewon proposed might actually work quite nicely. However, this makes him wonder about Kaiman and what he's going through on the second floor. On that second floor, Kaiman keeps thrusting and wonders just how many times has he repeated this action. 10,000 times? 100,000 times? Maybe it goes beyond that, but still, Jaewon tells him to increase his speed, and he does just that, but can't help but ask if he will really be getting stronger like this. Jaewon is surprised that he keeps asking questions like this, as he should feel something right about now. Kaiman does indeed start to see something, and Jaewon asks him if he's feeling uneasy because he hasn't fought against the other adapters. Kaiman notes that he knows he's not someone who is talented. Jaewon thinks that this statement is wrong. He is different from the other clan leaders that were blessed with being overcharged. His consistency and sheer hard work has brought him to being the strongest out there. Additionally, his mental fortitude allowed him to not lose his self despite having reached the question stage. The only thing that leads to an awakening is not talent, but willpower. Suddenly he tells Kaiman that he believes in him, so he asks him to trust him and continue. Kaiman is clearly touched by this, as he hasn't heard those words in a long time, so he clenches his sword even tighter and thrusts his sword even faster. Near the improvised tower, the woman who is at the arena looks at it while drinking and finds it quite impressive, as this is not an easy thing to make. She also asks her master, Chung Heo, if he also doesn't find it impressive. He looks at her sternly and asks Seola what she's planning this time. She notes that he's being quite mean and that they haven't met in a long while. However, he should just come back, as everyone is waiting for him to. Chung Hyo explains to her, like he did all of those times, that he will not be going back, because there is no way that he will team up with them ever again. They are a bunch of inhumane bastards. Seolha gets up and tells him that they are actually fighting for humanity. They are the only ones who do it so earnestly. Only them, crack. Chung Hyo says that this is a lie, as they are using humans to an end, and their organization is already on its way out after the great disappearance happened. Seola begins laughing out loud after she hears this, as she can't believe he would say something like that. Because he was one of the fuckers who planned the great disappearance. Isn't that right? Chung Hyo starts walking away, and tells her that this is not true. She notes that things didn't progress in the way that he wanted, but he did not stop the event, and simply watched as it happened. However, she feels thankful for this, as if it were not for him and his choices, she wouldn't be here at all. He should also know, since he is tied to this, that there are countless people within Crack that are trying to awaken using the method he taught them so long ago. They swing their swords at each other hundreds and thousands of times. They do that and kill each other again and again and again. Among those who do this, a very small number would survive and swing their swords 1 billion times if need be. They would become numb to life and death, letting them surpass humanity and see the world for what it is. That is how they obtain the first key word to awaken, dismantle. Chung Hyo pulls his sword out and demands that she shut up, as that is the wrong keyword. He pulls her into his unique world, and she notices that it's the same as before. It is still weak, as he got lost from losing his humanity, and was not able to draw anything in this world that he went through so much to even make. She, however, filled her world and became the second core captain of Crack. Seolha begins cutting his world apart, with great ease in fact. Chung Hyo believes that she became a captain with such skills, and asks if she also achieved the 3rd stage of awakening. She explains that it wasn't just the 3rd stage, and starts transforming the world around them. She asks if this pleases him, as this, all of this death, is the scene of the great disappearance. Does he enjoy her masterpiece, her life's work? How does he feel after looking at the sea, filled with corpses? He tells Chung Hyo that the living are not trying to pretend to be dead. He knows that there is nothing that will change that in chaos, right? This world will never change, so he should come back already, with her. Chung Hyo announces that it will change. He knows that it will. He believes that 100%. Seola can't believe that he still has the willpower to have so much faith. But even with his little helper, he is going to fail. Just like he did 900 years ago, and like when he abandoned all of them and ran away like a coward. He can do what he wishes at this point, but he should know that Crack will always be watching him. Inside of the tower, Cayman goes through all of the stages of awakening. First, to question it. The second stage is to understand the world he questions, and the third becomes quite blurry to him. Suddenly, Jaewon attacks him and shouts at him to wake up. His sword falls to the ground, but Cayman dodges and barely lands on his feet. Jaewon says that he did not want to see such a pathetic display from him. He should fight, like he is fighting for his life. Cayman feels all of the strikes, and can't even think of him winning this fight. He can't even comprehend just how powerful Jaewon truly is. This also makes him wonder if he even became stronger than before. He closes his eyes and accepts his defeat, but Jaewon tells him the final key to unlock the third stage.